Hi friends, this is the Be Real Babe podcast, a place where your average Canadian wolfpack come together to talk about life stresses, messes, and successes. A safe space where being yourself is the ultimate goal. Each week we will bring you new episodes sharing our opinions on a ton of different topics in hopes we can get a better understanding of ourselves, each other, and this crazy world we live in. We want to build a community where we can show up as ourselves, be real, and lay it all out there. By sharing our opinions and experiences, we hope to reach others who can relate so we can all help each other learn, grow, and heal. But please keep in mind, as a disclaimer, none of us here are professionals, no one is giving any advice. We are strictly speaking of our life experiences, our opinions, and for entertainment purposes only. Now, with that being said, it's time. So grab your drink, grab your joint, and let's jump right in. Welcome to the Be Real Babe podcast. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for stopping by the show today. We hope that you have a good time. And if you're a returning listener, watcher, supporter, thank you guys so much from the bottom of our hearts for coming back time and time again. For those that don't know me, my name is Brandy and I'm the host of the show. And today, you guys, we are on episode 130, Dirty Old Bastards. Those DOBs, it's time to talk about it. As mentioned, guys, we're switching into a new month, and the topic we're talking about is all things sex. We're going to get into it. We've talked about it a little bit in season 4. We talked about online influence, the dangers of porn in the porn industry, and we kind of touched it lightly. But this month, we want to jump into it even deeper. And the first, pun intended, maybe? The first episode we want to talk about is all these dirty old fucks that are at the top of all of this, at the beginning of this industry, at the very forefront, and that started all of these sexual movements, all these gender movements, and all the craziness that we're seeing today seems to be rooted in stuff from a long time ago with people that have been around for far too long, and we're still running on that stuff, and we're wondering why the world's full of pedophiles and creeps. Well, motherfuckers started it. That's why. So we want to talk about this more. Again, as always, look into shit yourselves. This stuff takes an easy Google search on Wikipedia. Very easy to find. Go and look. These are just our opinions, you guys, of stuff that we have read and where we are at this current time. We're not trying to shade or say anything mean to anybody about what you feel like, do, who you touch, or behind closed doors. We don't give a fuck as long as it does not involve children. You do what you want. What we're saying is that we're seeing some weird shit, and where did this all come from? Why do all women feel like they need to be Playboy bunnies? Why does every woman feel like if they're not acting like a porn star or a man, if they don't look like, the perfect man, that they're not good enough? Where did this all go? Why are we here? What the fuck, essentially? So we're going to start talking about it this month. So excited. We're going to jump on the episode. But before we do, if you are watching on YouTube or Rumble, make sure to like and subscribe. Turn on those notification bells so you guys can help us. Let them know that you like listening to our show and you want to see more. And always, you get notifications. If you're listening to Spotify, Apple, Google Podcast, you also can follow us there and turn on notifications. If you have time, Apple does let you leave a review, and that helps us so much. So if you could just take a second and give us a couple stars, that would be amazing. And on social media, if you are on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, your babes are all over there every day of the week, posting nonstop. You can message us there, chat to us, let us know if you want to have your own segment on the show, if you want a topic you guys want to hear. We have 2 months left of this season. I can't even believe it. We're halfway through. We are working on the tail end of it. Take a break for summer and then come back in the fall for season 6, new and improved, refreshed, tanned, bronzed, happy, hopefully a little smoke-free. We don't know. We'll see. And excited for a new season. But let's continue on with this season and get into the episode for today. All right, babes, it's time to get on the show. And today I have my beauty Hales in studio with me for this next episode. Hi, friend.
Hey,
how are you?
good. How are you?
Hi. Good. Happy May long weekend.
Yeah. God, I wish it was happy. It's
Well,
been so
kind of.
smoky.
I know.
Today and yesterday were the worst for
same.
us, but it kind of cleared up this afternoon. It's supposed to
good.
rain a
I've
lot.
seen some pictures.
Thank God. So
Isn't it funny? I just was saying, like, I've never been a person that has, like, wished for May long rain, or I've always been a person that has been like, I
yeah.
want heat right away. And after watching Alberta the last, like, week or so, I'm like, nope, fucking rain. I'm going to clean my house. Like,
The
I am
worst
not
part is
complaining
like
that it's not
you
nice.
could tell the weather is so beautiful, and I keep saying this weather, but it's not even the weather, it's just like the air quality. We were at like a 10 plus
Yes.
today and yesterday. And yeah, it's just like you can tell it's beautiful, like 25, 30 degrees, and it's just completely ruined by
It is.
smoke.
That's shitty.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, at least if
yeah.
it's worried by, like, weather, it's like one thing.
Rain,
But yeah,
I
for
can
us, it's
take rain because at
weather.
least you get cool like thunderstorms and lightning, and like I
Yes.
can get down with that. But
That's where
like
we are. Yeah.
smoke, it's not even fog. Like fog is one thing.
No.
It's like the smell, my throat, everyone that I know around me is like you can just feel it. My
Dying. Yeah.
sinuses, God, who knew
And
pollen and smoke would kick me in my
and
ass like this?
I didn't know, but apparently, like, maybe this is something that all people know, but I didn't realize, like, changing your air filter in your house, like, frequently when you're going through those kind of things. I never really even thought about it, but, like,
Yeah,
even after a couple of days, like this, some people have, like, so I was like, I don't even know if I thought about
we
that,
had
even living in
soot
BC.
and ash on our car the other day. So yeah, it's probably
Yeah,
time to change them. Yeah, it's been
yeah,
gnarly.
no,
Worst we've had this like in forever.
ever.
Yeah.
And I think one thing too, it's like, I think it's kind of giving everyone a perspective of, like, because it's usually BC that's on fire
Yeah.
like this, right? Like, it's usually like BC sending the fire,
We're
you guys
not
are getting
the
smoked
yeah.
out. It's not usually the source coming
We've
from you guys. So I think
tradesies.
it kind of, yeah, it gave us all different perspectives, and also like people in BC being like, okay, we need to be extra careful if well, I mean, you guys are going to know that we obviously think this is politically driven as opposed to nature driven,
But
you know,
still.
but the thing is, it's still something to think about. And everyone in BC now, I think, is kind of like, okay, we need to be extra careful
Yeah.
right now because
If we're at risk, God
politics or
knows you're at
nature is
risk.
not good.
Yeah.
100%. So it's like, I think for me, it was just like, I was hoping for nice weather. Of course, I would love to have
That's
a
okay though.
beautiful long
Like
weekend,
you said
but
though,
it's
indoor
been raining and stormed.
stormy
Yep,
weather means you have
indoor.
to stay inside with family and do all that like crappy spring cleaning and organizing and purging, and
Oh man, I
there's good
cleaned my
sides to it.
carpets this weekend, and the bed and the couches,
I
and I
hate
like,
doing that.
it's
It's always so
disgusting.
disgusting.
I hate it, and it's so gross. But you're like, wow, this is why I do this,
Yeah,
and like,
thank
it's
God.
really only been 3 months since I've done it, and I live well. I live with three little house hippos. They are messy little
Yeah,
bastards,
I've got two of them. One
and
staring at me here and one staring at me here. It's terrible.
I love it.
My
I'm waiting for. I thought that,
co-hosts.
honestly thought it was the baby crying the other day, and you're
Yeah,
like, oh no, it's the
because
cat.
Smokey has a loud, big mouth. He's always had a freaking
I love that.
ridiculous
So's
meow.
Benjamin.
He sounds like a
Yeah.
like the saddest little howl of his people you've ever heard.
Yeah,
Drives
you're
me
like, oh,
nuts.
I treat you so bad.
Yeah,
Like, what? You
how
would die in the
miserable.
wild to get yourself.
I tell ya.
Anyways, guys, so new month, new topic, talking about, like, in the topic in the realm of sex. Last month we talked about big pharma. That was a really good
Yeah,
one. This time we kind of said,
this
like
is
before, we
like
did talk in,
origins of
yeah, and like, let's get to
the
the
culture
bottom of it.
of.
And like, yeah, and one thing I find really funny, and I don't know because I didn't look into the two that you did, but from my side, what I find really funny is so many people that say, fuck the patriarchy, fuck these rich white men, elitists. And you go and look at this in some of the most popular companies in the world. These are billionaires, made billionaires by the things that they sell
Hmm.
through whatever
Business, right?
means, and all of their businesses are purchased by the people that say they hate them. And that's just where I kind of get confused
Hmm.
a lot of the time, where people are like, oh, like women empowerment, but we hate the dirty old white men. You do, but then you're buying like Victoria's Secret. So the
Yeah,
first one, like this episode, like we said, dirty old bastards. It's like, all of these people that they say that they hate, they're also supporting
yeah.
by buying their products. So I get very confused. So we're going to start with
Kind of the put your
Leslie
money where your
Hubert
mouth
Wexner.
is.
Kind of like you're voting for voting with your dollars,
Hmm.
meaning that if you buy the stuff, you are directly funneling money into them and helping them become billionaires.
Yeah,
And that's fine if that's what you care about, but you can't really say, fuck all these white rich men
yeah.
that are doing all these things by meanwhile buying all their products that
And
make
supporting
them
them
do
and
that.
giving them
Whether
money and furthering their wealth. Yeah.
exactly Exactly. And so I think one of the big questions of while I was looking through these two men in particular, there's a big question, and I mean this one for Hugh Hefner, which will be the next one, is like he says he's a feminist, or he's not really a feminist, but like he's for women. And I mean, feminists have been fighting him for years. I actually watched a episode. It was with Dick Cavett, I think his name was. It was like I don't know, it was like late night show, but not quite late
I
night
love
show.
it.
It was
Off
hilarious, and it
brand.
had two feminists on there. Yes, and they're on there like smoking,
I
and
love it.
Hugh had to have been like in his like 40s maybe, like he didn't
He
have
was
gray hair or
young.
anything, and yeah, and he was actually, it was like really good dialogue between them, and I'll get into that after. But it was just kind of, I don't know, it was just really funny how they're like, you claim to
He's
be
the face
um
of
for women.
modern feminism, and like be
Yes. Oh my
empowering
god, it was
yourself
incredible.
through nudity and empowering yourself through your sexuality. That was their
Yes.
it's similar to what we've talked about in the past few months. It's been their mission and their goal is to, yeah,
Hmm.
get to us, and
Yeah, and
he
that's
was a big part of that.
he was, because he gave women. Okay, so we'll go to him. So we'll like us because it's a good talk. But so we're gonna start with something a little bit lighter, because Leslie Wexner, I think a lot of people don't even actually know who he
No.
is. Um, he's not really like the Hugh Hefner type or like the Kinsey type that are like front and
In your
foremost
face
in
in the
things,
media,
right?
in
In
the,
your face,
yeah,
in the media. He's just like a wealthy billionaire CEO that kind of like, from what I feel like, he kind of more sits back and just like is,
runs the
but he's
show.
not like, yeah, he's not, but he still has his things, right? So he's born in 1937. 1937. This is how old this fellow is as of right now, or
Yikes.
of this date. He's a American billionaire businessman and the founder of Bath and Body Works, which was formerly Limited Brands. So Limited Brands started like forever ago, and it was just like a one store, one brand thing, and now he's this huge empire. So I do find
Jesus.
like he obviously is a very smart businessman, and any
Yeah.
of these men that we're going to talk about here, like I'm not going to take away that they knew what they were doing, obviously, and made a fuck ton of money. I'm not
They've
taking
got
that
the
away.
smarts, but they used it for the incorrect things type
I
of
completely agree.
situation.
Yeah. Yeah. These allergies are killing me. I am not a crackhead. I apologize for everyone that's watching. It's just going to
That's
happen
too
this next
funny.
month because it's like, it's so itchy. I can't. Anyways, so he grew a business empire after starting the Limited. It was restricted selection of profitable items and later expanded into holdings including Victoria's Secret, Abercrombie and Fitch,
Yeah.
Express Inc., and Bath and Body Works. So I'm reading this off of Wiki. That's one thing that I've been learning that I have to start remembering to source what I'm reading from better. I'm trying to get better, guys. This is one thing I was like watching. I was actually watching Illuminati getting dragged through the online world. If anybody watches, they're YouTubers, and
Mhm.
Illuminati's a big YouTube page, and she's getting called out harshly. And one thing was that she was stealing stuff and not quoting. And I was like, oh my god, I'm
Citing
terrible
her
at saying what I'm reading
sources.
from.
Yeah.
Yeah, citing her sources. So I want to get better. So, anyways, I'm reading this off of Wikipedia. Anyways, so Victoria's Secret's huge, guys. Like, and I'm not saying that it's not women empowerment, and I'm not saying any of those things. What I'm saying is that at the top of that is a dirty old billionaire man.
Yeah.
And it's just funny when women, like, especially feminists, are like, I'm showing my body and I'm embracing all this, and fuck all these men that like limit me,
By
but they're
doing,
wearing
yeah.
Victoria's Secret clothing or whatever, go to bed, Bath and Body Works. And it's like, but you're literally supporting the person you say you hate.
Not to
Do you actually
mention
hate that person?
the products are super top notch in quality.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And like, and it's expensive shit.
Yeah.
Like,
For
I don't know. Victoria's Secret seems pretty
We
expensive to
went
me.
to Sherwood Park Mall the other day, and they have Bath and Body Works, and I just like the smells of it just aren't the same knowing what we know, and it's just like such an odd, like it is.
Oh, now that I have Danielle's candles,
It's
there's no way
just
I'll go to
so like,
anything else.
yeah, it's just so.
You don't even want to breathe it in. You're like, oh, get out of my
It's just
hormones.
crazy that that's what they've built it on, is just like convincing us that, yeah, we need to lather on
Hmm.
every ounce of lotion that smells
I
good,
need to
candles,
smell
your
amazing.
house,
Yep.
your
Yep.
linens,
All of
your
it.
everything. And yeah, he is old as sin. That's insane.
Yes. And it needs to be perfectly cultivated, right? Like, it's just like,
I've
and
seen
that's
this
what I
thing
think I,
lately that said, why are men of their age considered like unemployable, but they're the ones that run everything? Why are old
oh, they do.
senior citizens considered unemployable because they're all sorts of different things, but
Bill
they're
Gates.
literally the billionaires and the heads of all of the
Top.
corporations that run our world.
Yes. Yeah. And I think for me, it wouldn't even be so much. It's not even that I have a problem with these men putting
No,
these things out there and supporting these women and embracing their sexuality and individuality. But again, I think this was rooted in the wrong place. Like, I don't necessarily think I believe that, they were doing these things
yours
to
are
advance
rooted
women.
in my two. Like your two were
Yeah.
born of
Ex-
my two people I
right.
researched, right? So
And and like it's all connected too. So the biggest problem I had with Les Wexner and why I wanted to bring it outside of the Victoria's Secret, and again, I don't think there's anything wrong with wearing lingerie or being sexy or doing those boudoir or being a model by any means. What I'm saying is I feel like what these brands were doing, not only poisoning you by all the different
yeah,
chemicals through their Bath and Body Works, they're making it seem like to be beautiful and to be
this is
sexy,
what
you
you
need
need.
to be this extreme of Victoria's Secret. And yes, they are beautiful. And do I agree a lot of the models that they're coming up with now are that? Not really. But like there could have been like a cheaper brand or like more, I don't know, just natural beauty as well. It doesn't always have to be this like
Not to
extreme,
mention they're not
to be sexy you need to
comfortable
have this whole get up. It's
often.
not comfortable. Like wear the sexy, like, like more like the Calvin Klein type of cozy, I don't
Chill
know, it
and
just
like
Victoria's
relaxing.
Secret.
It's not
Yeah.
being sucked
No,
into
it's
a
just so
corset or like
extreme.
all those like tight stringy like
How do you get that off?
no
Like
one
I would
likes
just
that.
trip and
It
fall.
it looks cute and like pictures, yeah, for sure. Like in
Yes.
my opinion,
Yeah,
for
for
boudoir, where
sure.
you can like, I hate to say that, but like not touch up, but like where you can make it look. I
Perfect.
just can't with some
No.
lingerie is just. It's nice, like you said. Don't get me wrong, it's nice, but it has its
Yes,
place. But
pretty.
it is the
Yeah.
least comfortable thing you'll put on.
Yes, and I feel like it's more like derived to like again this hookup culture and this like that
It's
kind of thing as
cheapened.
opposed to like intimacy, yeah, intimacy between couples. And that's where my problem is. I think always what it lies in
Mm,
is that whatever they're doing, they're selling it as women empowerment, but they're cheapening sex. They're
yeah,
cheapening, and I'm going to say that through this whole month is that they've cheapened intimacy, they've cheapened relationships, they've cheapened sexuality of women and what that means.
the
It's no
whole like
longer
sacredness
sexy to be
behind,
mysterious.
yeah,
Yes. And the intimacy and like that it's a connection and like we'll get this in the next couple weeks, but like for me it was just like I think back now and I feel like, if they especially talk about sexual energy, like and you're holding all that in for everyone that you had sex with and it's like they're pushing this hookup culture, like no wonder why a bunch of us are, messed up or in their
mm,
later ages having issues or you know what I mean? Like maybe that's what all this infertility is manifesting in and all that fucking crazy sexual energy that you absorbed by like hookup
yeah,
culture. It's just these are the people at the top of it making the most money out of it, pushing it, and the people that are supposed to be fighting against it are actually supporting it, being like, "Oh no, Hugh Hefner's a feminist," and it's like,
yeah.
was he? Because like he equated women to animals, which we'll get in. So Wexner, the biggest problem with him outside of this like Victoria's Secret stuff, like I don't really necessarily think he was necessarily as creepy, but the biggest part is that he hired Jeffrey Epstein as his financial manager beginning sometime in the 80s
Hmm.
and continued until 2007. He had a very close relationship with Epstein in the 80s and continued up right until his death. He was friends and he was once the main client of Epstein's money management firm. According to Bloomberg, he
Cute.
allowed Epstein to run his business out of a house he owned and resided while at Victoria's Secret. So there's a lot of ties to
Yeah,
Epstein and Wexner. A lot of houses that Jeffrey Epstein housed these women in were allegedly, I'm going to say, because, internet, who knows, don't get mad, were owned by Wexner. And you kind of have to wonder, like, okay, he knew that he was a fucking
yeah.
trafficker. He knew he was
Creepy
doing
white
these
dude
things.
to
He was
creepy
giving them
white dude.
houses.
They probably had a lot more in common than we want to admit.
100%. But we're going to be like, yes, queen, we love fucking Victoria's Secret. I'm just like, yeah, but I get it because I'm sure a lot of the stuff that I love has got some creeps at the top of it. But
Yeah,
like
well,
this one is
nothing's
smooth,
immune,
guys.
but
Like
it's just when
nothing.
it just so happens to be this, and it's creepy as hell.
Yes, it is very creepy. There's another article that I need to pull up here saying he was 82 years old when he when I think he finally kind of did a new chapter of his enterprise and kind of stepped down a little bit, 82 years old.
Wow.
And the brands that he was at a charge of are like the Pink and Bath and Body Works. Like, I just find that
It's very, very Hugh Hefner-esque. Like, it's creepy that he's in charge of, like, young girl, young woman. In some case, Pink is, like, teenagers. Sexy
you
outfits and
kind of have
sexy.
to wonder
Like, he
what
obviously doesn't have, like, a hand in, like, the design and blah, blah, blah. But, like, it is
mm-mm.
kind of an interesting thing to own, you know, for a
Yes.
dirty old
Sorry,
man.
the important part, the very, very important part that I wanted to put, and this is why I think Epstein had a lot of control over all these men too, as well, is that I bet you he put them, and like we know this for like celebrities, like
In
he probably put
compromising
them in
positions.
very compromising positions, and the fact that he was a part of
Uh-huh.
this, so Epstein had been Wexner's money manager, and their relationship was so close that he gave him the power of attorney and made him the trustee of the Wexner Foundation. Usually, apparently, power of attorney and trustees are
Yeah.
usually for family members or
Yeah.
like very high people on board. So the fact that he put Epstein at the top of that around like anybody in his family or in his
Yeah.
wife, and when
That's a big deal. That's an extremely big deal.
is a big deal. When Epstein obviously suicided, quote unquote, if
Yeah.
you're listening, in New York, he was 66, and it says he was, obviously we know he was charged with abuse of these girls in these underage homes in the
Hmm.
early 2000s, and some of these homes were owned by Wexner then puts him as a trustee of his foundation. And like, in what world do we want to connect like women, sexualized women with predators? Would we want to not like keep them, but then we're going to make him a trustee of our
Their
foundation?
currency, so there's probably something fishy going on
Yes.
behind the scenes too, right?
And so when they asked
You're
Wexner
making
about this,
someone
when
like a trustee of your like the entirety of your estate.
millions,
Like
billionaires,
they either have something on
billionaires,
you
yeah,
or you trust them implicitly.
100%.
And with
And
Epstein,
he,
it
I
would be
guess,
probably a little bit of both, but
he's got
he's
something
got
on him.
something on
Yeah,
him for sure.
he's got something on him.
He has no
So when
choice but to trust him.
Wexner, no, he said when he was asked, he said being taken advantage of by someone who is so depraved is something I'm embarrassed I'm even close to. Wexner had said in a September interview about his
Hmm.
relationship with Epstein. In the present, everyone has to feel enormous regret for the advantage that was taken of so many young women. That's it. That's all you got to say. Being part of and owning one of the
Politically
biggest
correct.
corporations in the world, you're going to sit there and be politically correct with this kind of stuff. Now, I get that he
Be
made this company
PC.
like 6 decades ago and you're trying to be PC, but like, we don't want PC around like this kind of shit. Like like you're already kind of evil in my mind, but the fact that you're not
There
condemning
wasn't enough
Epstein and what they're
outcry and
doing,
condemnation of like his actions by higher ups,
no.
any form of Hollywood celebrity, any form of like judge, judicial, political, like there was no
Mm-mm.
uproar at all besides
No,
us
and I
like
think
crazy people
tin
in
hats
yeah
conspiracy
in the
theorists.
background that are like, yo, this is fucking weird,
Pizzagate,
can
what?
someone please
Like,
pay
what the fuck?
attention to this, like
Yes.
we're the
And
crazy
this is where
ones, right?
I want to point out too here before I jump into Hugh quickly, is like, I always say this too, like, think about those conspiracy theories. And even if you don't want to take them at face value, dial them back like 70-80% and you're going to find some truth. So look at Pizzagate. Okay. Maybe some of the things in Pizzagate were far fetched with the Clintons, whatever. I'm not going to say I
But
believe
they
a lot of
seem
it's
to
true.
match up elsewhere.
But let's dial it back 70-80%. And we've got Epstein, we've got the Wexners, we've got the Hugh Heffners, we've got the Kinseys and the Moneys and the Nygaards that we didn't even get to dive into,
Yeah,
and the fucking like
just
Dahmers. You know what I mean?
the
Like,
countless like yeah.
it's disgusting. So carrying on, and dirty old bastards. So I go back and forth with Hugh Hefner, because there's a part of me
It's a
that's
hard
seen a
one.
lot of good in him, right? Like there is a lot where I do believe he did change a lot of things, whether I agree with the progression, but he did help with like laws around abortion. He did help with having women be able to have these careers and make this money, whether it was rooted in whatever, it was still, especially at that time, women's liberation. And He was born April 9th, 1926 in Chicago, Illinois. He was the eldest of two sons. Um, it is kind of cool because like from the beginning he was president of student council and founded a newspaper, so he was really into journalism.
Super
He created a
charismatic.
comic book. Yeah, super charismatic. He was very very much against like any sort of like racial issues. Like it, all women and all races were very much shown. He didn't want to exclude anybody from
That was
his
really
anything.
progressive of him. So
He
in
was
those
very
aspects,
progressive
there
in
was
those
things that
ways.
he did
Yes.
that unfortunately have to be seen as, yeah, like
Yes,
groundbreaking.
good. Groundbreaking and very good for their time. Like he did not care. He thought all women were beautiful,
Yeah.
and I do respect that a lot, and I understand the beauty that must come
Hmm.
from that. And I think again it started somewhere, again, peace, love, beauty, da da da, and got taken over, and money and greed and perversion took over
Yeah.
because now you're overstimulated with all the anyways. So early life, so he started a comic book entitled School Days, which was really about a youngster in like his own imagined universe. So he
Hmm.
always had a very like creative and like journalistic part about him.
Yeah.
He also served 2 years in the army and non-combative towards the end of World War II, and he was just discharged in 46. So he's kind of like really been all over the place. He studied at Chicago Art Institute for a summer, and at the University of Illinois, where he majored in psychology. And I find this very, very important piece
It's
of
kind of an
information,
interesting thing to major in. Yeah.
isn't it? And don't we notice when we think back, if you didn't go back to our first month, we talked about cults. A lot of the cult leaders, and I would say that Playboy would be a type of cult.
Oh, dude,
They started
the
with some
cult
form of
following
psychology.
for sure. At the very
100%.
least. At the very
All of us
least.
had the Playboy fucking. Don't tell me none of you in my age did not have the Playboy bunny tan
Yeah, I'll say
part
my aunt
from
collected
tanning beds.
magazines. She had her dad's from the 60s and 70s. She collected them all through the 80s and 90s and like
Yep.
2000s, and like just finally stopped getting subscription after they stopped sending them because they
Making
went
them.
online.
Yep.
And yeah,
Yep.
like that is dude, the centerfold, that's where you know where that's from. Like
That's
that was
where.
like
Yep.
the it was such an iconic and like pinnacle of like that time in history, Playboy.
Yes.
It
It
was
was just like
what girls
Madonna,
wanted to
right? Like
look
there's
like.
just those.
That was
Yes.
the standard. That was
Yep.
standard.
The pinup. Yep. Pinup. You were centerfold. That's what you should look
Yeah.
like. And then like girls like us were like,
Big boobs, small
well,
waist, big
shit.
hips. Yeah.
And I don't think that's
Perky
how Playboy
everything.
started,
No.
right? Playboy was all women of all different types, and over years, it curated to this like
Standard. Yeah.
specific standard look with,
Ideal.
like the girls next door and all those, like the Wilkinson and Holly Madison and all those girls that we all watched, we all looked up to in a sense because it was like the Nikki Richie, Paris Hilton time,
Yeah.
right? So he was very much like doing different things and really kind of touched on some things that I think probably made him the master manipulator he was later in life, like
Yeah.
just because he had all these different
He
ways of
had a power that
connections with people. He did.
I feel like it was like connection stuff, but he also held like this very powerful card. Like Hugh Hefner,
Yes.
you say that name, and you'd be hard pressed to find most people around the world that don't know who he is. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, or the Playboy bunny symbol.
his
It's iconic for
card
sure.
held so much power that I feel like no matter what, he was going to be treated differently. No matter what, he was going to get the best of the
Oh
best. No
yes.
matter what, he was going to get what he wanted because fuck, he was Hugh Hefner. Are you kidding me?
Yes. Everyone wanted to go to the
Hell, look,
Playboy
you
Mansion.
had
Everyone wanted
20
to be a part of
something
that.
year olds and like freshly 21, freshly 18. I don't know what the limits are in the States, whatever. But they're lining up to go date this like 70, 90, 80-year old dude.
Yep.
60,
That
50. Like,
apparently And that apparently was just like nasty. So yeah, so let's keep going here.
yeah.
So he married his first wife in
She was
1949.
beautiful.
Yes, she was Mildred Williams, and he got his first bachelor's degree. So he later graduated uh, in the area of sociology, focusing on the Sex Research Institute established by Alfred
Yeah.
Kinsey. And if you don't know who he is, stay tuned because we're going to be talking about him
Yeah.
next. So again, we always see this, and we see this in the cult kind of area too, where everybody kind of connects themselves that do these same kind of things. So We'll get into Playboy later in the month. I don't really want to necessarily talk about Playboy so much. It's kind of about these men
Yeah.
that kind of like
Run
started
the
this industry and run it. He so he died. Hefner died September 27th in 2017 in his home at the Playboy Mansion.
Yes, he
He was
did.
91 years old. Yeah, he was an American icon in 1953. Introduced the world to Playboy magazine, built the company into one of the most recognized global brands in history.
Yeah.
He peacefully passed away from natural causes at his home. Um, so here's some really creepy things that I've kind of learned as I'm going through this. So, again, there's a side where I do believe and agree.
Hmm.
He did a lot where he should, but he also again did things that he got away
Yeah.
with. Like he back then women were not protected at all, and a lot of them would do photo shoots and they wouldn't have rights, and someone would buy the rights to their photos and then post them. So Marilyn Manson, or Manson, oh my god,
Marilyn
no,
Monroe.
not Marilyn Manson, no, no one wants to see that in the white dress
That's
over a
funny.
thing. But the iconic Marilyn Monroe photos that were on Playboy, she did not authorize those to be on there. She did not know him. She had nothing to do with him. She didn't want them on there. There was literally nothing that she could do. And he did this again to another
They boosted her
model
for
as
a
well.
reason, though. We'll have to
Yes,
talk about that
100%.
during the Playboy episode
Yeah,
for.
she's definitely used one for sure. But what's really fucking creepy is that he bought the plot next to her
Yeah.
and is buried
Yeah.
beside her even though
He
they've
was
never met.
obsessed
That is
with
how
her.
obsessed with her. Isn't that
Why do
fucked
you think
up?
all
I
his
hate that for her.
girlfriends were blonde bombshells like she was? She was the original, like,
Playboy look,
yeah,
Playboy bunny
that's what
look.
he based it. Like that was his ideal. That was his vision of ideal was, yeah.
And I didn't get the quote but it did get say several times, and I'm gonna butcher it. But basically, he said that like at first the Playboy, and we'll talk about this more when we go into it.
Yeah.
Like at first it was supposed to be more like stag party, like stag magazine. It was kind of more to be more like a horse kind of thing, I think.
Yeah.
And then they turned it into a bunny. And what he said about it was the most disturbing thing. It was like how bunnies are like shy and playful and they'll run away, but they come back and then you just want to snuggle them. And like that's
They
kind of
play
like
hard to
these
get.
bunnies, like they play hard to get, but they're really easy kind of thing.
Ew.
And it was like the most disgusting thing. So on this Dick Cavett show, what this feminists were saying was just like, if you're a true feminist and you don't think that women are animals, like I'll believe you the minute you walk out here with a cottontail on your ass with bunny ears
Yeah.
in like a thong. And he's like, well, no one wants to see that. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, but that's so true. Like, so there's two
Hmm.
sides of it where you could be like, yes, it's very empowering because some people with sexual trauma or not will say that being naked and being shown off is very empowering. I can understand that. I definitely do not feel the same in the way that like other people do by like posting that
Yeah.
online and stuff. And so I don't relate, but I'm not going to discredit that just because I don't relate. I can imagine that in a boudoir, I've taken photos. I know what it's like to make women feel sexy in the moment, but I think there's kind of like a
Yeah.
difference when it's doing it to maybe like right or wrong in the worst ways. You just get more abused, I think, right? And so for me, it's like that's not
I
empowering,
can
but
do
I
it
can
for
understand.
myself. Like
Yeah.
there's times where you catch, like, you get out of the shower, you catch a look at yourself. It's like, okay, hey, but yeah, there's no, like, there is such a different, like, I just,
It's a hard one for me. So it's like I
like, the
understand that
OnlyFans,
because
the whole nine. Like, I just, yeah, I feel
yeah,
like you have to have a certain level of confidence, but you also have to have a certain level of, like, I don't know how to say this nice, like,
not give a fuck.
damage
Yeah,
too,
yeah.
to, like,
Not worried about it.
yeah, like, you are so beyond, like, you're giving a fuck. Yeah,
Yeah.
you
And it's so
don't
hard
give
to
a
know what
fuck.
that meter is, right? And I think and if you guys haven't watched it, Pamela Anderson did an amazing documentary
Hmm.
on Netflix. It is so great. And she said that she was like, and I want to get into this to talk about the Playboy Mansion because there's a lot of fucked up stuff about that place, stuff that went down there, like the grotto. They actually tested that grotto and it
Barf.
came back. I can't even remember with like 10 different viruses in that fucking place.
Oh
And like
yeah.
there was animals running around the Playboy Mansion. They never cleaned it up. It was very
Well,
gross.
think about it. In, like,
Some people suffered mass abuse.
the those the girls next door, the
Yes.
playmates, like, the girls that live there, the girlfriends, they had monkeys, bunnies, dogs, cats, birds, you name it.
No one was cleaning it up. Nobody was cleaning it up. Those girls weren't cleaning it
I've
up,
heard the carpets were like, yeah,
which is
like
disgusting.
disgusting. Like you wouldn't even want to
Yep.
walk on them with shoes type thing. Like it was
Yep.
gross. Yeah,
Yep. And so this is like
he,
they do empower them, and I get back in the day, like because it was saying
he's
women could go
definitely a
make fucking good
controversial
money,
one
but
because he
he
did
is
lend a hand to positivity, but he also like dabbled and like was very like knew he was in the negative side of it too. Like he was very much a
100%
he
a player of the
yeah,
line,
like
right? Where
I
it's
definitely
like
think he contributed a little bit more negative than he did positive, but he definitely did
agreed.
contribute like positive in my opinion.
100%. But then and I agree. And then you hear stuff like where some girls say they had an amazing experience being a part of the Playboy Playmates. It's amazing. But then you hear some of them and the ones that were there closer,
We're
it's like
not.
you had a curfew. You had to be home by 9 p.m. You could not talk to
You can't sleep
anybody. You
over
could not
anyone's
talk to the
house. You
staff.
can't.
Can't sleep over. You can't do anything. You get an allowance. And if you were caught, but you also had to pay for the things to make you that desirable. So those like I think they got paid, I think it was like $1,000 every week.
And like
And
manicures, your hair, your
yes, all that stuff you had to
tans,
pay for and you had to
waxing.
keep up so you were sexually attractive to him. And if you got caught like spent like saving that money to like go escape or something like that, you got in a lot of trouble. Like they would rat each other out. It wasn't like always like a sorority. So like a lot of fucked up stuff
Hell,
happened
they're
and
selling
apparently
each
he would
other
give a
out.
lot of people.
They're selling each other out
Yeah,
for sex too. Like you go do it.
100%.
I can't.
Well,
I can't.
and he used to always like apparently he would
Gross.
just get like stoned and just like watch and make the girls do stuff together. Apparently he couldn't last longer than a minute. It was just apparently absolute like not.
Hell.
Yeah, it was apparently complete hell. And it's like it's so crazy because as we go through all this stuff, it's like again all of us wanted to be playmates for some weird reason. Like I didn't want to sleep with Hugh Hefner, but the idea of just being the playmate was a huge thing. Like I didn't want to sleep with him by any
I
means,
don't
but
think we
you're like,
understood
oh,
fully what it meant either
what that
to be
meant.
one of his
No.
girlfriends at the time. Like you just knew that that was
Yes.
like that was
Top
status. That was peak, right?
status. That was more than Paris Hilton status at this point, you know? And like,
Isn't that terrible that
what?
that's what we thought
And
was
you
like
look,
peak achievement? Like,
that's why I look back now and I'm like, or I'm like, hey, everyone that's like that age, like putting up Dylan Mulvaney, like, guys,
yeah,
we were wrong about some of the things we put up. So I'm just saying, be careful
chill.
here because, yeah. And we're going to dive deeper into the Playboy Mansion and that whole part of it. But like, for him and he's been in and out of stuff and I think for him everyone just knew that that's who he was and they accepted it and it's just like Epstein, people just accepted it
He
and it was
was
like, well,
open and honest
people
about it.
knew.
Epstein
He was
was
very
to
much
an
more.
extent with like the people in his circles, they all
Yes.
knew apparently.
Yeah.
But Hefner was literally out to the world. Like, I am a
Yes,
creepy
and
old
he is
man.
a and but to most people he was a fucking god because he could get all these
He
women
was
and he was
Hefner,
the
right?
like
Hef.
and he had the fucking like charisma and he had the robe
The
and he had that stature,
velvet
like the
robe.
money, the yeah, all of this kind of stuff. And so like and he was very successful at what he did. I'm not going to discredit that, like,
He
and
built a
for what he did, he
million,
built it
billion, I'm assuming,
billion
billion
dollar. Yeah.
dollar empire off of a
Yes.
comic
That
book.
to 91 years old and held on to that.
So, as a
And when even
businessman, top notch. I
very
salute
well,
you.
top notch. Yeah, because when magazines started going out, then he started doing TV and TV
Hmm.
shows and behind the scenes and that's where that made far more money, right? And yeah, so and they've always been
Hell,
kept to their brand,
think of all those
right?
parties they threw where like there's like right at the cusp of like influencers and not. I remember one girl went to one of the Playboy parties and kind of documented it, and like they
Mhm.
used to throw those regularly and just invite
Yeah,
like good looking club
tons of
girls,
rich
good
people.
looking rich people, like it, he marketed
It's a
and he
business.
he built that business like a fucking boss, like
He is. He
geniusly.
did. He did.
Truly,
He did.
truly.
Yeah, off the vaginas of a lot of
it,
women.
it like it is a crappy, yeah,
Yeah,
mountain to sit
I go
on,
back and forth.
but
Yeah, I
he
go back
built
and
that
forth.
mountain and that mountain was fucking grand. Like he did
It
that.
was. I still have like I had when I was younger, I collected all
I
Playboy
was I
stuff and
have
I
Playboy
kept
stuff.
some
I have
stuff.
towels. Playboy Bunny
Yep,
towels.
I still have
I
some
had a
stuff from my
guy,
past, and I think it's
he was a
important.
welder at this like job I had way back when. He like made me like a necklace holder, and it was like a Playboy Bunny head welded on like a stand. It was like super
Nice.
weird, super
I had
bizarre,
the
but
buckles, like the
yeah,
belt buckle.
I have a
Yeah.
chain upstairs that is
Shirt.
horribly tarnished, and like I have to
Yes.
polish because it's silver. Like it's so
Yeah.
weird.
I have a
And
book of my teenage memories in a Playboy Bunny
these
book,
are
like
gifts
as
from like
17,
family
18.
members and like my
I know.
parents, and like
I know.
this was
Same.
like an acceptable thing. Like, let's get my 16-year-old daughter Playboy Bunny towels. Like,
Yeah.
what? Like that
But
was
we
a
wanted
thing.
that.
It
It
was.
was a
It
thing, but
was.
all
The
of us.
tattoo for tanning was like
Yes, huge.
icon,
Why would you get anything
iconic.
else? Like,
Like
yeah, why would you have a heart? You're
so
a loser.
terrible.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so anyways, those are my two dirty
I'll say
bastards that I
like
started on, guys. So
so
let's
like
go
she
into
said,
Hale's because hers gets darker.
theirs were built off the backs of mine. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with Kinsey and go into money because it just kind of
Okay.
segues nicely. So Kinsey, this motherfucker was born in 1894. You heard that right.
These old fucking cunts.
1894.
1894.
He
Yes, he
died
was the OG
in
dirty bastard.
56. So he is like the OG dirt McGirt.
DOB.
Yeah, dirty bastard. So his name, Alfred Charles Kinsey, was an American sexologist, biologist, and professor of entomology and zoology, who in 1947 founded the Institute for Sex Research at the Indiana University, now known as the Kinsey Institute for Research in Sex, Gender, and Reproduction. Okay? So this guy literally, literally started a sex research at a very well-known university. So this man is highly regarded. He like when I first learned about him, it really frustrated me because he is held to such high standards. It like really
Yes.
fucks with me. So he was
Yep.
originally a zoologist and a sexual psychopath. This one website I found explained him like that, and I was like, okay, that's a great first
those,
sentence. Like, what?
those are words. Those
So,
are words on paper.
right, he was funded by and connected to the Rockefellers, of course. So that's where his
We're so
original
shocked.
funding came from. And his research, when he conducted his research, the focus groups, essentially, or the types of people that he did the research on, were, I'm going to say substandard. I'll tell you what they were in a second here, but substandard is a nice way of putting it. And he based this and put this research out as normal sexual behavior. So this is like the average
Ah,
normal behavior is what he was trying to put this study out as. But
okay.
he did this research, and this came from sexual psychopaths like himself, sex offenders, criminals, pedophiles, prostitutes, serial rapists, prison inmates, and there was one that I didn't write in here, but I'll say it anyways. I was violently sexual, or no, how did they put it? It was like incredibly sexual homosexuals. Like it was just like violently, aggressively horny gay men is who he like. It was just
Okay.
such a weird thing. But yeah, so it was
Those
like
are
the
subjects
sexual deviance of our planet,
of
like
the world.
serial rapists,
Okay.
prostitutes, pedophiles. Like it was weird. He was also
Yep.
linked to very well known like pedophile groups.
Hmm.
Not
He's
cute.
probably the starter of maps.
He, this is a weird side fun fact of Kinsey. He sort of Van Gogh'd himself, but he personally circumcised himself with a pocket knife.
Is he the first
I,
transgender man?
I don't know,
Or is he
but
trying to make a neo
it was
vagina?
fucked.
Um,
So he in his research reached out. He had contacts and like contact and correspondence with people in prison, people in psychiatric wards. Like he just had access to all these
good
types of people for
people.
his research, and he
Hmm.
solicited and encouraged pedos to harm anywhere from 317 to 2035 infants for his research on child sexuality. So he has this very famous, if you Google Kinsey and you're on the dark side of the web, you are going to find out table 34. So table 34, unfortunately, I have screenshotted here in my phone, so I've forever immortalized the contents of this fucking table. So in Kinsey's Kinsey's Sexual Behavior in the Human Male was a book in 1948, and it offers proof of systematic child abuse that Dr. Kinsey researched. So he had a table that had age, number of orgasms, time involved, and then age, number of orgasms, time involved. So it was like one table split into two. And he has anywhere from 5 months old all the way up to like 26, I think, is the oldest age I see here. So this,
Yeah, because after 26, you just don't matter anymore.
yeah, so he essentially was like calculating how many and how
Babies?
long children orgasm, because his belief was that we are all inherently sexual from birth. We are all. It was just really hard to research him because he is
That is
very
really, really hard.
he's really weird. He's really like twisted, and money is the one that we will find more relevant because of all the stuff that we're dealing with. But yeah, Kinsey was quite, like I said, he put this forth as like the normal standard of like what everyone, like, he had questions. He would do like research and like surveys and like quizzes on people, and he would ask them incredibly like personal things or just
Fucked up
really like
question.
gross questions. And he had essentially said that like 80% of the male population has essayed a woman before. I'm like, what? Well, when you're
I
asking sex
hope
offenders,
not.
criminals, pedophiles, prostitutes,
No
serial rapists,
shit.
like inmates, like, you're
What?
gonna get numbers like that. But that was his, like, yeah, it was put forth as normal
Obsession?
people and not the deranged sexual individuals that he was used to, like. And this is the man that created and
Is it,
helped
isn't
like
it?
create the basis for sexual education in the States and in Canada. He would
Mhm.
also film orgies and sexual events for blackmail. So he would, I think,
Very Epstein-like.
yeah, I think when I read that, I was like, that's very like MK Ultra, like CIA, Epstein, like that's
Yeah.
very like
Right up par to what we've
typical
been
of
going
that
through here.
shit. So I was like, that made sense, right? So then
Totally.
after everything kind of went sideways for him and people started being like, yo, this dude's a fucking crackpot, weird fucking dude, who are you? The
My
Rockefellers
God.
couldn't support him anymore, so they pulled out. And guess who
Oh.
fucking swooped in? Playboy, Penthouse, and Planned Parenthood.
Oh, Margaret Sanger, our
Yeah,
favorite. She's the
established.
hero.
They all jumped in
Oh.
and they established the
Oh.
sex education industry using Kinsey after, yeah, the Rockefeller stopped funding because, that's what the Playboy and Planned Parenthood do on their spare time, is fund this loser's fucking work and shit. So yeah, there's
Wow.
I think they really did a
Wow.
good little dive into him in What's a Woman by Matt Walsh, the documentary. If you haven't
Yes.
seen it, go watch it because it's a fabulous documentary. But some of the things you find about Kinsey just really makes you sit funny. And yeah, like the very first thing I read, he's a zoologist. This motherfucker studies animals, and we have given him the right to study the sexual behaviors of people.
Hmm. Children?
What?
Why is that? Why is that even?
Where does
Is
that
he the one
link?
that?
Sorry.
Is there something? Is it him that's the Kinsey scale? Does that have to do with sexuality too? Was that his?
Yeah, where did I see that? Give me a second here. I'm pretty
The only
sure.
reason why, because I think it has to do with like the spectrum of sexuality, like this would fit really into
Yeah,
this time right now of like the
hold on.
spectrum of sexuality. I don't know, because I remember Blair White kind of
So the
talking about
Kinsey scale,
the
also
Kinsey
called the
scale.
heterosexual homosexual rating scale, is used in research to describe a person's sexual orientation based on one's
Hmm.
experience or response at a given time. The scale typically ranges from 0, meaning exclusively heterosexual, to a 6, meaning exclusively homosexual. So yeah, it is.
Hmm.
Which is
The
funny
Kinsey scale.
because
That's what I
so
thought.
Kinsey had that kind of stuff, but John Money was the one that pretty much coined the terms and created the terms gender identity, gender
Okay.
dysphoria, sexual
Interesting. Okay.
orientation and gender role, like anything to do with that, that was John Money's doing.
Wow. Okay, tell us more about that. Wow,
So,
what it is perfect. What full circle we're coming
right?
around in this whole
So,
fucking
let me
season.
get
Holy
how old
shit.
this old fuck was, because
Mother
he's
B.O.B.
another old fuck. So, John Money was
See?
born in 1921. Old motherfucker. And
Mm,
he died in
mm.
2006. So,
He
he he
lasted a
he
long time.
lasted quite a while.
A
So
fucking long time.
John William Money was a New Zealand American psychologist, sexologist, and professor at Johns Hopkins University, known for his research into human sexual behavior and gender. Gender. So he's more relevant to
Hot
today
topic.
because this man
Yeah.
has essentially created the stepping stones for our fucking nightmare. And I'm sorry to
Oh
call it
my
a
god.
nightmare. I know that is quite
It is a
rude,
nightmare.
but
It is a nightmare though.
I miss the days of you do you. As long as you're an
Yep.
adult, you're not hurting anyone, hurting anything, hurting yourself. Do you.
Mhm.
But like why
Yes.
it has to be so in our face is
I
beyond
don't
me.
know.
But
I
anyways,
watched it I watched this video today. It was so well said. It's like no one is saying that you can exist and that what you're thinking for yourself and how you feel isn't how you feel. But it's not reality and it's not in facts. And I think that's why people like us that we're believe in gender dysphoria. But one thing I never thought of is like gender dysphoria is a form of mental illness that can be addressed not with just surgeries. So there's a bunch, and you'll excuse me see this in the detransition, like is gender dysphoria always needing to go to that surgery? And I think that's what the biggest
no.
problem and our biggest problem right now is saying that no. And if you talk to real trans people, and actually I was watching a Dr. Phil clip, and I'm not usually a Dr. Phil fan to be honest with you, but it was actually really good, and it was talking about just how it might not always be a permanent thing, and that we should that trans should actually go through the proper steps and the channels and be diagnosed with gender
Mhm.
dysphoria through the proper channels, and then they can start whatever surgeries. But now people are self-identifying and self-diagnosing
Mhm.
as trans, but a lot of the OGs like Buck Angel and Blair White, and even the new ones that call it out, like Marcus the offensive tranny, and a couple new ones are popping up that are saying like no, 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 like we're very aware that we're a different gender, um and we want, and by being trans we have gender dysphoria, and we want to transition into the other gender so that we can blend in, not stand out, be different,
Mhm.
be above everybody. And the other argument is like, okay, well, you're saying that there's no binary, but you're transitioning kids from being one binary to the other, so there has to be a binary for you to be able
To
to transition
recognize
to
that
the
there's
other
not.
one. Exactly. So it's like what's going on now is so different. When you think back to the 90s,
Yeah.
there really, yes, okay, before anyone comes to me, there was gender inequality and there was racism. But truly, if you look back to the 90s, it was pure love and expression.
Yeah.
And everyone were just like, there was like, people say there was no representation. I call bullshit. I grew up knowing that there was gays and there was lesbians and there were cross dressers and that there were people of all different color. Were there some things, I kind of joked with my, one of the uh, bosses at work, he is from South Africa,
Mhm.
and I kind of giggled. I was like, as a young child from a very small island, I thought that people from Africa were all black. And so when my doctor was
Yeah.
telling me he was South African and he had an accent and he was white, I was very fucking confused. And I was like, but you're white, like being just a little kid that was curious. And back then it was like kind of cute and it was a learning moment.
Now
Actually,
you'd be
there are
called
white
out.
people. Oh my god, I'd be a racist at 6.
Mhm.
But I kind of giggled and was like, I didn't know that. And when I was a kid and back then in the 90s, you were able to ask those questions,
Yeah.
like what culture are you from? What, what colors? I don't mean that in a rude way. I never mean those things with a racist thought. I just am curious because I care and I love to learn about people.
Yeah.
And I think that is almost like a bad trait that happened with this gender part, where it's like I can understand the empathy that people have, what it must be like
Mhm.
to be in the LGBTQ and must be in the wrong body. But like, do you not see where people get worried, where fucking crazy people like this are the ones that started it and pushed this and are very a part of like the sexually deranged? Do we not? I'm not saying
Yeah.
that all of them are. I'm saying that a lot of this was rooted in people that are a little messed up, and
Yeah.
I feel like that needs to be talked about,
I,
like this John Money
I
guy.
think like it's the pandering to like why are your feelings and your stuff more important than everyone else's or mine? Like why does yours trump mine? Why
Yes,
do you get to scream out at the top of your lungs about your pride, but I'm not allowed? Because then
yes,
I'm a shitty person. Like it's a lot. But
yeah,
no, so John Money's story for me really starts with the Reimer twins.
okay, yeah,
So he was there's a botched circumcision on these twins, and John Money somehow convinced the parents to raise then David, who got botched circumcision, as Brenda. And I don't
right,
remember if I'm pretty sure he is like essentially like a
yes,
eunuch. Like he doesn't have anything. I
hmm
think his penis got completely disfigured. They didn't like transition him, I don't believe, to a girl with lady
no, it
parts, or maybe they
just
did.
showed up.
I didn't look too much into that, but they convinced him
Fair.
to raise him as Brenda because in his opinion it was environmental and influence that determines gender. Like it's not
Mm,
necessarily what you were born with, it's what your like
mm,
environment, which
mm.
to a certain extent
Okay, yeah,
it's like
sure,
peer pressure kind of thing. Like you kind of like
yep,
act like your environment does play a part in who you are, in my
it
opinion. So
does.
yeah, so like
Yep, it
fair enough.
does.
So like I said, he coined all those terms and like started using them like crazy. So in the studies with his like the twins, he in his mind he was successful because it worked.
Mm,
She kind of looked like a girl, grew her hair out, but was always still confused, like had no idea why
fair.
they felt like they were supposed to be a boy because they were. So he
Yep.
essentially created reverse gender dysphoria. Like
Mm.
he created the gender dysphoria and then recognized it and like affirmed it because
Ah,
he was a
very Bill
boy and
Gates
then
of
they
him.
started telling him that he was a girl, but he had this gnawing feeling on the inside that he was meant to be a boy. He did not like girl things. He wanted to hang out with his twin brother. He wanted to do things the boys were doing.
Yeah,
Like it's just so crazy.
yeah,
But in
yes.
their
Wow.
research with the twins, he did despicable things to those boys, making them like act out sex acts on each other to reinforce the that Brenda is a female and this is how females are like. Yeah, it was gross. Like some of the shit I didn't even want to read it.
Again, with these people that say, like, don't put stereotypes,
Yeah.
don't be conforming, gender conforming this, but it's like all this research that backs all the things that you guys are using
Yeah.
pushed those binary things on children and
And
patients,
he
and that's
also
disgusting.
was a practicing
Oh my
and
God.
researched pedophilia a lot. So he also
Mm,
was
mm,
just his wasn't as far as Kinsey's, but his was a little more extreme in the sense that I feel like his pedophilia kind of took the trans and like the gender dysphoria and the gender issue into account as well. So his, I think,
mhm,
is where I'm not going to say it started because this was like the early 50s, but I feel like that's where like it kind of got a foothold and like took off, where like
mhm.
you would associate
Yes.
pedophiles with like I would never and do not associate pedophiles with the LGBTQ community because I think that's
No.
fucking you're going to get pedophiles in all sorts of different kind of
Everywhere.
like that's a real stretch, but I feel like that's where you could link back to like look,
Sexual
yeah,
confusion
of
and
like
gender confusion
with
over, yeah.
the new pedophile. I'm not even going to call him a map because I just find that so
No,
disrespectful to like everyone
it
else in
is.
the world. But like,
Yes.
yeah, like it's hard saying some of these words, and like this is probably I wouldn't be surprised if this got taken down off of a few.
Oh, I'm
with
sure
the
it's
word
coming down off YouTube for sure.
pedophile and serial
Yeah.
rapist and stuff.
But why? Like, it's dark and it's gross, but
That's
it
a
needs to be talked about.
that's
That's how you
I think the
stop
thing
it
about
from being in the dark,
these are only
right?
four of the creepy
These are
old
only
bastards,
four.
but that's the whole
Yeah, we didn't
point. Is
have
like
much time.
these four are so high up. We all know about them. We all know pretty well. Like it's easily researched. These were not blocked
Yeah.
websites. You can Google these men. You
No,
can find out
Wikipedia, man.
everything, right?
Yeah,
Why is it not talked about enough? Why is this not
it's
at the
not.
forefront of like what the fuck? This needs to be dismantled and
Right.
redone. We need to redo. I think that's like B was saying earlier. Everything that we have had put in place, I'm going to say easily and solidly from like the early 1900s till now, like
Mhm.
50s, 60s mainly because that's when all this shit seems to happen. 40s for sure. Like they have done such a disservice and just like bang up job at really degrading, cheapening, and like ruining the power, the
Intimacy,
intimacy, the connection, the
hmm
like sheer
beauty.
like electricity of sex. Like it is not supposed to
Yes.
be such a cheap thing. It is not supposed to be
No.
such a like, oh, I can go on the internet on my phone or like grab this magazine and see titties and vagina
Yep.
plastered everywhere. There's a
hmm
reason why in some cultures seeing a woman's ankles is like, oh my god, I saw her ankles. Like, ooh, like there is something to be said about mystery and just like
Yes.
the intrigue and like why do you think women like reading like salacious books is because like it keeps you going. It's the interest, it's the
Yes.
mystery, it's the
Yes.
draw.
Yep.
That's what people
Yep.
want. You don't
The
want,
foreplay
it's
almost.
very much the like you can't expect him to come back for milk and cookies if you're going to give him the whole factory right off
Cow.
the like
Yes.
get go. You know what I mean? Like
100%. And if you're showing that to everyone else, I mean that in the kindest
it's
way. And I do want to talk about that in the next couple episodes too, is like this whole porn industry. We said it before. What is it
I
doing?
feel like that's
And
where
it's
it
it's
lends to
it's
like
creating
little
false
girls.
narratives.
Yeah, like I don't know if anyone that follows us follows Andre, but he was talking
hmm
recently about how yeah, like someone got told like those school dress codes where like skirts can't be lower or higher than your fingertips and like no
hmm
spaghetti straps and all that. Like that lends a hand to then yeah us getting told that our bodies are a distraction, we are a distraction, we have to wear certain things because we don't want to
Yes.
distract the boys. Who the fuck is teaching those boys that we are not to be ogled? We're not
Objects.
objects. We are people that you
Playboy
have
isn't.
respect for. Playboy
Yep.
has ruined it. Porn, dirty stores, dirty magazines. Like, I
hmm
hate to say it. And
hmm
at this point, I don't even think it has its place anymore, or it doesn't even have a space in our world. It is quite
hmm
literally filth. It's trash.
as I'm aging, I'm starting, and I
It's
don't know
such a
if you see
different,
my rant
yeah, opinion
the
about it
other
than I
day
used
about,
to.
yeah, and I don't know if you see my rant the other day about, I think it was like the other night, I was just there, and I don't know what
Yeah.
actually happened. It was shared by like a pro-life, so I don't want to, but anyways, it was a 19-year-old girl, and she was in the hospital, and I don't really know the background of it, but all of a sudden she locked herself in the bathroom, and when the she came out after a little bit, and they knew she was pregnant, um, they found the baby in the trash, and they don't know if it was stillborn, and the mother had no idea she was full term,
Yeah.
and she was 19, and she was just crying that she was so afraid, she was so afraid of having this baby. And what I kept thinking in my head is, why the fuck are you fucking then? Like, if you know, if you were that afraid to have a baby, then why aren't you taking every goddamn precaution that you need to take
It's
to, and
really,
I'm sorry, there's no excuse anymore. There's
no.
free condoms. Birth control is really not that expensive, as much as I hate it. And you know what's fucking cheap? Abstinence. And that is not popular because motherfuckers like these four guys have made it impossible for you to
Yeah.
feel like that is an option without fucking being completely annihilated. And here's the thing, we have these internal clocks
Yeah.
that are made in us that judge other things and other people to see how we stand up so that we survive the
hmm
pack. Because back in the day, if you didn't survive the pack, you were kicked out, you would die. Now, obviously, we don't need that
Yeah.
because we can suffice, but socially, they do the same thing. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think that's
Yeah.
why. And I'm going to say Candace Owens' husband kind of bangs it on here. Like, Instagram is a pornography site.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's the funny thing is too, is like they want us wholesome, they want us pure, they want us
Hmm.
chaste, they want us
Hmm.
all this. But
But
if you
also be a dirty
are
slut
that,
at the same time.
you're a prude, you're
Hmm.
inexperienced, therefore you don't know what you're doing, therefore you're not going to be good in bed,
Yes.
therefore it's just going to be like shit and blah blah blah. Like,
Yep.
you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't,
Yes.
and that's like where all of the, like,
Damaging.
my two men kicked off, her two men carried on, and like look what it's perpetrated. This is like, that is such a common theme throughout
Yes.
our generation, teenage girls and girls of our age,
Hmm.
was you're either too much of a slut or you're just like the
Hmm.
biggest virgin ever. Like, there was no in
Yes.
between. You could have made out with
No.
a dude and you are the skankiest hoe of the day
Yes.
until
That
someone
was
else
me.
does something else. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
especially when you're younger, like
We're
the
so.
volumes and like the actions all equaled out to whatever,
Mhm.
but there was just no,
No
honestly,
sell to wholesomeness.
it was, well,
You're
and
a loser,
you were a loser. You wanted
especially
to
if you're
fit in. You
religion.
wanted to be cool. You
Hmm.
wanted to like impress that boy or that girl or whatever the case was.
Yes.
Like, we were just like, they set up the sexual industry. So like, we got had sex ed, and
Sixth grade?
I'm almost positive it was the sixth grade, and it was a
Yeah, I want to say
cartoon
sixth or seventh.
booklet that we got about estrogeny and
Hmm.
Captain Testosterone, and it was really cheesy, and I fucking, me and my one guy friend that went to school together, we remember it and we will discuss it, and I fucking wish I would have kept that comic because
Oh my
some of the
god.
imagery was very tame compared to what you're seeing now with all the weird books
Now,
and shit, but
yeah.
it was pretty descript, and it was just like lightly touching around everything, but like they were talking about it more so, but the imagery was
Enough.
like kind of suggestive in some spots, so talking about
Yes.
boners and like your tits growing and getting your period and blah blah blah. But compared to now, I wouldn't want like, I'd be horrified to sit through like a sex ed class nowadays, because I feel like it's going to be talking about stuff that I don't even necessarily think I've learned officially, to
Yeah,
like
you're like, what is
third
that?
graders. Yeah, it's like, okay,
I
wait,
need to check that.
wait,
Hold on,
yeah,
let me
I need
Google
my
that.
book. I need a pad and paper because I have questions. Like, I don't
I have
even know
so many
this, and I'm
questions
like
now.
34 in October. Like,
The rim of what exactly?
excuse
Excuse
me?
me?
Yeah, like,
Say that
can we
again?
rewind that? I need to write. How do you spell that? Like,
How do you
it is.
PH what?
It's just it's gone to like, it's like someone
Such an
strapped like
extreme.
rocket boots to it, set it off, and it's
Yes.
just gone so
A
beyond.
vibrator to it.
Right? Like, they're passing that around in school instead of like the
Hmm.
bananas and condoms, which I didn't even do bananas
Yes.
and condoms. Like,
No.
I just,
I feel like that's a parental thing. I know that sounds terrible and gross, but I really do. Like, I understand getting
sex
into the
ed,
biology of it and the sex ed in that part, but I think at that age, that's
I agree.
not quite there.
I
Like,
think
let's have it
biology
a little bit
class
like
has an opening
that's the
and like
place.
a very like
Yes.
scientific opening that they can play with, and that's
Or a
totally cool.
social
But that's
science.
also high
Or a social
school, right? Like,
science.
high school is one thing.
Exactly.
But I
Yes.
hate to say it, and I've said it before, but like, I know it's uncomfortable and I know it's not like the greatest conversation to have with your kids, but why the hell else are you trusting someone, or like, why would you trust someone else to like teach your children about that topic? It may not
No.
be the greatest conversation you're going to have with them, and it may not be one
No.
that you're ever prepared for, and you may look like a nerd having written down notes and like telling them stuff you want them to know, but better it coming from you, the person that like gives a shit about them
Knows
and
them.
wants them to like
Hmm.
treat this not as like a, okay, here we're going to learn about sex, now pass out free condoms type thing. Like, it's not such a
Yes.
casual thing. You want to teach your kids what you want to teach them, and there's no better way than to do it your damn self. And I like,
Yes.
I hate to say it, if she goes to regular school, I will probably be the crazy mom that like opts out. Like, I don't want her taking part in those classes. I will
No,
teach
not
her
anymore.
myself. I'm
Not
sorry.
anymore. They're teaching way too many weird things in schools now. And that's what I mean. I think it is uncomfortable, but I think it needs to happen. And like, that's the thing. Like, it's either that or they're going to go figure it out on their own.
And
And
that's
like,
what a lot
I
of us
feel like
did,
I was, yes. And I
unfortunately.
feel like I feel like we had those good conversations, and like I knew about birth control, I knew about all those things, but not in the way that we know about it now. Like we're going to be able to inform the next
Oh
generation of
God, I can't
truly what
wait.
does birth control mean, right? Like, and actually teach
What
them
it
about their bodies. And
does,
none of that stuff was done. Like we
their
weren't taught
cycles.
proper
Yeah,
by, yes, biological stuff. And I think between that, so everyone is afraid that you're always going to get pregnant, and you don't want to get pregnant and have a baby because that is the worst thing on planet Earth to have a baby, right? Like we do
that's
not
another
do that.
shitty
Don't dare
narrative.
you.
Yeah,
So exactly. So we're going to put you on birth control pills. That's going to lead you to anxiety and depression and possibly infertility in the future. But that doesn't matter because you can fuck everybody right now. And guess what? Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Bunnies, that's what's cool. And that is what we
that's
want
what
to
they
be. And you want to
push
fuck
too.
everybody.
Is yeah,
And that's what they push. And as a 16-year-old with, I'm going to say it, father issues, alcoholism in the family, totally lost, and people laugh about dad issues, but y'all, it is fucking true, because when you don't get the attention from your father, you seek
yeah.
male attention. It seems like a fucked up way to think about it, but it's not, because you are not getting that male validation in your life, so you go and search for it. And at that age, the way to get it is between your fucking legs. And that is why a lot of us girls became sluts at those ages and did those things, because we weren't getting the proper male attention structure. And although that was not right, of course we were misguided, because on TV and all over the place, MTV, music, all of
Yeah.
that, it was hookup culture, do all this. Now you have a bunch of us all fucked up,
And now,
and
and
like
look at
some
it though.
people,
Look at
like,
all the
oh,
heads of these, like you were saying, Hefner and stuff. They're all They've studied psychology. There's a very good
yes, they're
chance, and
master
there is,
manipulators.
like, this sounds stupid me just saying. There's a very good chance that it's probably the case is they know that exactly what B just said is going to be the result of what they're doing. They
100%.
know that they're going to break us
100%.
down and break, like, that's just, it's all by design. It is, and
And,
it's a
and women
scary
are
thing to
competitive.
say, but like, that's, we all need to come to that realization. We are competitive, but who are we competing against? No one. We need to be amping each other up,
No
cheering
one.
each other on, because we
Yes.
are such a formidable population. It's crazy.
We are.
We collectively can decide whether this earth continues on with population. You
I
know that,
wonder
right?
why
We are
sometimes.
we are the
Yes.
sole deciders of that.
Bearers. Yes.
Like,
Yes.
it just, I mean, they can
It
do the
is.
test tube babies, they can do incubator babies, they can do all sorts of stuff like that,
Yes.
but like, we're so powerful, and it just sucks to see us. They have done a very good job at suppressing us and making us feel like a whole bag of
Yes.
shit when we are all fucking top notch, like
Yes. But
12
look
out
at
of
us all
10s.
now.
Like,
Like
fuck.
I feel like and that's why I feel like this is all coming up to up, and
It's a
then it's
peak.
coming down.
Yeah.
Like it is peaking, and I didn't, I said this on a rant this morning on my Instagram, and I took it down because I was like, no, I want to put it on the show today because we're having this conversation. And I don't know if I said this on the show or not yet, but I did talk about it with my friend. I know I've said this to you before, where there's just some times where I think things are super popular and they go on this rise, and then we see the downfalls of it and it starts to retract. And so I think one of the downfalls of this whole gender push is
Bandwagon.
going to be, and this bandwagon thing is that, not to be this way, and I might get dragged for this, but like if we think about someone wanting to look like a quote unquote stereotypical beautiful woman, whether that's a woman or a trans woman, they're always going to have the same kind of idea of what that looks like. And there's going to be everyone going to these plastic surgeons and Botox and fillers, and they're all going to be like working towards this one specific look. We've seen this with the Playboy Bunny era, everyone trying to look like that. And then the Kardashians came in, or sorry, before that, it
There's
was like
always
kind
an
of Playboy
ideal.
Bunny. And there was like that Hilton, Paris Hilton skinny, and then it was like that Kardashian, right? And they're always going to
Carmen
be
Electra.
Carmen Electra, Pamela Anderson,
Hmm.
right? And so, oh damn, where was I going with this?
About that
Oh, sorry. No, I know.
ideal.
Yeah, so everyone's going to that one look. And now that trans seems to be more out there than ever before. Then those, especially trans women, have to very much do a lot of surgeries to then present like women, right? So then if we have biological women and trans women all going together to look like the same, would it be fair to say that we might see a change in that beauty standard of surgeries and plastic surgeries and fillers? Because how are men, by just looking, going to be able to tell immediately if a woman is a biological woman or a trans woman? And I'm not saying that it's bad to be attracted to trans women. I'm not saying that you're absolutely allowed to have a preference of what bottom you want to be
Hmm.
servicing, for lack of a better word. And that's not transphobic, that's a preference. And true trans people understand that.
Mhm.
Um, and so I half wonder if, just like with the sexualization, we're starting to see like, yes, OF is taken off in a different way, but it's also now seeing a bunch of women regret it. And I feel like that is like its end. And now it's starting to do this. Are we going to see that with a lot more other things? Because I think we're
I
seeing
hope
that in the
so.
sexuality department. And so I kind of like, I'm not trying to be this way, but if you look at, say, me and you, and we see that our faces are moving and we look more natural, it's more nice to be like, oh, she's a biological woman.
Yeah.
And if you are a man attracted to biological women, you're going to be probably more apt to go with someone that you, or that, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, where it's like, I don't think that that's going to be it anymore, because it's not going to be just women in that category anymore. There's going to be, you know, a part of it that some men aren't going to like.
It's
So I'm
there's gonna be
curious to see how that's
subcategories
going to
because
pan
there's
out.
it's not one
Yes.
category anymore. It's a meld of
No.
categories. I don't know
Yeah, so
why,
I'm
but
just curious if we see that.
the one thing I thought of just now, and it's kind of like super random and weird, but like if all the like sex workers, like porn stars and like OnlyFans and all this, if they all quit and stopped, I wonder what like what there would be a surge in other like work industries. Like, would there be like a ton more
Hmm.
nurses? Would there be a ton more
Yes.
like hairstylists or like
Yes.
lawyers or like,
Yes.
it sounds terrible. Like if they were to put their focus to something like traditional education wise, like
Yes.
what would there be more like, I don't know,
If
like,
that was open, for
yeah, like
sure.
actresses,
Yep.
models, like, I don't know, like
If any job
surgeons,
was
hell, like
available, like if you
doctor.
could have any job, if you could have any job
Yeah,
without
like I wonder
money,
what
or
that
what would
industry
you?
has taken away from the most, because I feel like medical
Yes.
industries, because it's so expensive, people start like stripping on the side to help pay, and then they just kind of get lost in that,
Yes.
and then they're
And the
just a
money. Yep.
stripper for life because you make good money, like things like that. Like I wonder what profession
Yeah.
gets
And I think
robbed the
on
most
a
by the sex
yeah.
industry.
And I'll play devil's advocate to that too. I imagine sex crime rates would also rise. Like there is a rise in it from that, but like I do also think that's why I will be like, I don't think porn should be abolished by any means, because there are studies, and we'll talk about it down the road too, because that does stop a lot of like sexual aggression and rape and stuff in those degrees too. So I do agree it
Seeing it
has its
visually
place, but
versus
again,
like acting it out type thing.
yes, informed consent, we talked about this in the dangers. I don't think that we should necessarily
It
be
needs to go back to the way
um
it used to be, where you had to have like your credit
yes,
card, your ID, and it's very much like an
yes.
18 and over. You can't just get access to
Mhm.
it no matter who you are. Like it needs to be
And
very much
personal people
taboo the way it
distributing.
was. Like it
I
has
think it needs to be,
yeah,
yeah, it needs to be their own people publishing their own things, and no more Pornhub, no more OF, none of those things. Like be an actual like entrepreneur and
independent
build your own
type
website and
contractor.
yes.
Yeah.
So you can keep your content clean, the people that are watching it clean, all of that, but it's there's so many easy quick
Yeah.
platforms that people want to just do and go and make the
With
money
the
and walk away
internet,
from,
it's
right?
one of those things like
Scary.
once it's like
Once it's out there,
one,
you're
well,
booked.
no, too, but like the internet is like, once there's like internet made, there's always going to be a dark side to the internet. So like you can try and
Hmm.
regulate the porn online, but there will always be like
Yes.
the dark web side of it where you can still get it for free
Where
somewhere
there's all the
under some
trafficking and
whatever. Like
yeah.
it's just kind of like the nature of the beast, which is like a disgusting thing to say, but like
Mhm.
that's the thing that we have to look
That's
at.
why
Like
we have
why is
problems
there,
though.
like why is
Yes.
that the nature of the beast? Why is it like disgusting, creepy, vile things happen under like neath everything?
The guise of
Yeah.
sexual
Yeah,
exploration, where
this
it's like, I don't know,
this
is it
episode
good?
was an interesting one because like I've heard of
Yeah.
these people before through like
Same.
friends and family of just like conversation, but I don't know if a lot of people like there's even in one of the websites I read they said, "Do you know who Money and Kinsey are?" And the amount of people that will tell you like, "No, who's that?" They don't know who they are, and you can tell them everything
Hmm.
we told you today, and they're like, "Ew, that
Hmm.
sounds like a horrible person." It's like, "Oh, but they also are like the founders of like such a sex education and sex research and child sexuality to this day." And it's like,
That people use.
"Oh, wait,
Oh, maybe I shouldn't
what?"
be backing this
Yeah,
as
like
much.
I don't feel like we get the whole picture, so it's not.
Never.
It's just, oh, like,
It's like
oh, that's a
Margaret
creepy
Sanger.
dude. But do you realize that that
Yeah.
creepy dude affects your life and affected your upbringing?
Yeah. And do you know that Epstein wasn't just the only Epstein
Yeah,
out there? He
like
was just the one most
Hefner
known.
was, in my opinion,
So
Hefner was, I think, the original
more known.
Epstein,
Yes.
in the sense that he had access to all those beautiful women. I believe he very
Mhm.
much, maybe not the original, but like the highest profile. Like he was one of the OG
Mhm.
Epsteins. He
Oh, yeah.
there's rumors that the
He
Playboy Bunny
trafficked women
mansion
different
had
ways.
like tunnels that went to like Jack Nicholson's house. I don't remember the other celebrities, but like a bunch of big name celebrities like Robert De Niro and stuff, and they would funnel, similar to the rumors of like underground tunnels going to Epstein Island, and like
And Disneyland.
sub tunnels and cruise ships going from Disneyland
Mhm.
to Epstein Island. Like
All the tunnels around the world where
it's
they
one of
traffic
those,
children,
like you were
which we're
saying,
talking
Hugh
about this
Hefner's
month.
a hard one because like there's so many people that idolized him, and not idolized him in the sense
Yes.
that they wanted to be him, but like just that like he got to be around beautiful
He's
women all the
king.
time. He was like,
Yes.
he
He had
was,
pussies
yeah,
surrounding him
like he just
everywhere.
got to be surrounded by beautiful women, and he was
Yeah. He was the
successful,
OG
and he
Donald
was,
Trump. He
yeah, like he was just that status of like getting to live your life and
Yes.
not having to work and blah blah blah. But when you really like
Like
deep,
drink and
yeah, like
cigar
fancy
and
like 007 type
rich
shit, like,
mansion,
but
grotto.
he, when you really deep, like into it, like deep dive, it
Yeah. He seemed sad.
he seems sad, but he also, I can't tell if he was like truly like Kinsey and like a sexual psychopath, or if he
Yes.
saw an opening and took it, which almost makes him like even more evil in my book, that like he preyed on that so hard. Like he was just a
I
very
think he was both.
smart man, in my opinion. He's
Yeah.
just
I think
very
he was both.
smart.
I think it's like if you've like read
He
like
had a
Christian
mix.
Grey, that like where you're outside, he was that professional
Mm.
business and very taken together.
I feel like you
Everyone
have to
loved him,
know
kind of
to do
thing.
that. Like you're aware of
Yes.
that
Yeah,
persona
but in
and
the
your
background, he had this very deep, fucked up
quick
sexual
wit. Yeah,
fetishes
yeah.
that, yeah, just like Epstein, just all of those did. But again, he offered women stuff and he was out there more. So when people came at him, he was like, but the girls know. The girls know what
He
they're
was the
doing.
face
They,
of, and
you
it was
know,
very much that. Like they like to
yeah,
press the, this is all done by consent. There's contracts. It's a
yes,
business. That's why it
yeah,
was
which I
acceptable, because it
just,
was a business.
yeah. But they
Which
also pushed the
it
girls
was
to not have their other
technically
jobs
a
and
large
kept them to get like
prostitution thing.
exactly.
Like,
And a lot of them back in the day, especially like at the very beginning with the clubs and all that kind of stuff, which we'll get into in the months, like they did not do so. Yeah, I get a lot of the progression and the good things
yeah.
that these men have done, but I just want to challenge you if
It's
you are one of those people, and I'm not one of those people. I do not say that I hate all white men that have money. I've never said that. I said I hate disgusting globalists and I hate
dirty, creepy
like
old
ones like
men.
yeah, like the whiff and like
The
those guys
whiff.
and like the yeah the whiff and like the Klaus Schwabs of the world, but I don't specifically go after white
It
men
has nothing to
that
do
are
with dirty
elitist.
old white men. It's just dirty old
No,
men,
but
period. I don't care.
it's just funny
Yeah.
that these top ones here are those exact things, but these same women that say they hate them will still to this day with this knowledge down themselves
Wear
in Playboy, and
some
I'm like,
Victoria's
is
Secret
it
underwear while, yeah.
yes, yes. Like,
Yeah.
is it women empowerment? I don't know. We're going to talk about that more in the coming weeks. What is and what's not, we don't know. We're learning. I go back and forth with so many of these things all the time. I'm always in my head of like what I feel, but I think at
It's
the
a
end of the
lot
day,
of
as long as
making up your
children,
mind and unmaking your
yeah,
mind. And like you said,
yeah,
children, as long as they're
constantly
on
challenging
the
myself.
opposite end of that topic,
Yes.
like not even, I don't
Then
want it
I'm more
near.
open to it.
And
Yeah.
I was, the other day I posted something talking about just like the
Isn't
LG,
Brooke Shields too?
yeah,
Wasn't she in the Playboy
she
at
was
a very young age too?
at
She was like
10.
16?
No,
10?
10.
Jesus.
Yeah, she was young. No, but like the whole like talking about the community and stuff, like as long as kids are involved, I could give a
I
shit.
don't give
I
a
watch
fuck.
RuPaul still. There's a new season on. I
Yeah,
still haven't given up on RuPaul. I look at things a little differently, and some of the fucking
of course.
themes and shit they push, I see a little differently. But I still think they're funny ass bitches, and like I laugh and I can get, but I'm an adult. I am an
Yeah.
adult. I am consenting. I know that they're drag queens. I know that they're not really women. Some of them have transitioned to be women. Good for them.
Yes.
They're adults. But I do not need to
Yes.
see children. The second they have children on RuPaul, I'll be done. Peace out. Like,
Good.
I
Well,
just
that's one
can't do
thing.
it. But there's just,
We're not a part of that cancel culture that believes that they
no,
shouldn't exist though. We're not those
I'm
types of
not.
like
you have a
conservatives. We're
place.
not that
You
way.
have a
You have a
place. You are
place,
valid. You have
just
a
not
place in the world, just not around
just
children.
not in children. Yes, and that's fair. Like if you
And
want to go have story time, do it to old fucking grannies that
ki-
are lonely in the old
I've
folks
seen that
home.
too.
Like I'm
I've
sure
seen
they
tons
love
of
it.
memes saying that. Like, it's funny they don't want to read to the old folks. They just want to read to like young children, which
Or
is
homeless
true.
people, or homeless people, or drug
Or
addicts, or
dogs in the
people in,
shelters.
or dogs in the shelters. Like there's so many other places that you could be making an impact. It is
Veterans.
weird that yes, that's what I mean. It's weird that you go to children. Why? Because they
They're
won't
easily
question it, and then
influenced.
and you can influence them, and that's where it's like when it comes to education, like for sure you can be
Yeah.
whatever you want, but if you're pushing my child, and I don't have one, to your sexual
Yeah.
preference, I think that's just weird,
And
and we should take that out of the things. But
that's why,
that's just
like,
me, and I wouldn't want that for heterosexual sexual content either for my children.
no.
That's the other thing.
I feel
I
like
don't think
that's
it's
where
cool when kids go to Vegas and stuff like that and see those strippers. I don't
no.
like that either,
I feel like that's
straight
where
or gay or
Kinsey and
drag. It's gross.
Money were like really like for me, because yeah,
A
they
100%.
those two, the funny part is that they're the two founding fathers of, yeah, like we said, sexual education to children, garnered
Yes,
towards and like
the
focused on children
what? What? And the rest of these people that are
and
making more
sexual
money based all
deviance.
their shit off of these people. And then all those cult members,
Yeah,
I'm sure, had
so
something
they
to
all
do with this
link.
too. Like, you see where it all ties together? It's fucking gross. But
Always, we
guys,
say it all the time.
dirty old bastards. Four of them. We just found four in just this 1 hour and a bit episode. Just four. And again, as we encourage you always, this is it. Easy, quick Wikipedia search. Lisa sent us some links. They were not hard for her to
God, they
find.
were good.
They're not hidden. They're right in plain sight.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is like support and do whatever you want, but just sometimes I'm not saying know everything because we can't know everything, but when you're really fighting and you're fighting to be like, this is how it is,
Hmm.
just be sure that you're not supporting things like this, because it's like you can't support
Everyone
these
makes
creepy
mistakes, but
old
once
men
you
and
know and are
say,
conscious, you should do your best to, yeah,
yeah,
like, put your
yeah,
money where
and
your
just
mouth
ask,
is.
do is informed consent happening, and is this truly empowerment, or am I being tricked? Because I think the beauty industry is very much
Oh
tricking
God,
women in a sense where they
that
think
has to
that
be a whole other
they're
month.
less than. Yes, please, that they're less than, and look at all the money going into it, and like we just talked about it like on my episode with Bianca on her show. Like in my mind, it was cheaper to
Yeah.
pay a therapist to help me love my small tits than to get implants. That's just where my head went. And that's kind of where I've gotten into this beauty thing too. Like, yeah, I would love to learn how to do my makeup a little bit better. And then I think about it and I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go buy my makeup. And I'm like, but to wear it where? To do what? To go on the show? Like, to what? Hide the handful of
Today, I
pimples I might
seriously, I
have?
was,
Like,
I went to go get my nails done and my toes done, and I'm like, I'm gonna
yes, they
roll
look
up there looking
beautiful.
so cute. I'm so excited. I literally showed up in an oversized hoodie, like romper onesie because I needed my legs exposed, and I had hoop earrings in to make me look cute because I had no makeup on,
I love
and I
that for
just looked
you.
ghetto as hell, and I'm just like, eh, toes and nails, please. Like, I have
That's
just
what's got
given.
her done.
That's probably my favorite thing. The outcome of the past few years. I just don't
Yes.
care. I could look
No.
like a foot, and that's just, I'm gonna look like a foot. This is just what you get. And I feel so
But it's like,
sad for everyone that sees all these really cute, like, freckle filter and like cute photos of me on the podcast page, and then they come and tune in, and it's like, who the fuck is this dude with a do rag on right now? This is Haley. Hi. It's just,
oh, I
I
have
love
kids in
that
here
though. Like,
too.
it's good to
But
talk
it's
about,
being able to,
because I
but
feel
it's
like a
being
lot of
able to
people
do
are
it when you need to
opening their
and
eyes
not,
to the corruption
yes,
of like, I don't even, the sexual industry, like, the beauty industry ties so heavily into that, because that's what it is. It's
it
the
does.
beauty standard in,
Yes.
like, that we all are made to follow, because
Sexual beauty
apparently everyone
standard.
gives a shit. But yeah, that's the beauty of the last few years of learning all this, and like
Yeah.
seeing how targeted we are is just, you've just made me really not give a fuck.
You made me not want it at
I don't
all. Well,
care.
then you just, and that's the thing. It's like, it's funny when you start to know something, and even if it's something that you love to do, you'll start to notice that you will act differently
Yeah,
about it. So it's
it's
like,
not the
I
same.
know I can put, but now when I put foundation on, I'm like, oh my God, I can see it. I
The
can
dry,
see it
you're
everywhere.
so
And if
much more
I can see
critical.
it,
Yeah.
yes. And I'm like, oh, this isn't not a good look. Like maybe I'll cover and like do a couple like of, but I can't do the whole thing anymore. But I never used to be able to leave the house without it all on. And I
Yeah.
probably look the fucking same. But like, because I don't, I just don't want women to feel like they have to have those things to be
Hmm.
beautiful. And if you feel beautiful without them, then go nuts. Do whatever you need to do.
I agree.
But just know that people are making money off of your insecurities.
For
And I think that
sure.
pisses me off more than anything.
I have an
And
example of that. They asked me three
all your
times
makeup.
today if I wanted to wax my eyebrows because I haven't tweezed them in a few days, and they are so bad. And I got in the truck on the way when I was getting out, and I was like, "Oh wow!" They're
That's
probably like,
why.
"Bitch, let me wax your eyebrows, please. Like you look like freaking Chewbacca. Like it was so
Yes.
bad." And yeah, they're trying to
And I'm
profit
not.
because that's the thing. Who the fuck cares if I have 6 errant hairs? But like it's like, oh my god, I've got 6 hairs. Get them
I got
off. Get them
two. Oh, get them
off.
off. Get them off.
They've
And so, like,
just conditioned us to fall for it
to
so
do that.
easily. Like,
Yes. And I think those things are good to have too, and I want people to get that. But like, for example, if you don't have money and you just went and spent $20 on your eyebrows because you had six, like, or you could go buy a pack of those like shavers that you could do on your face that and you just literally sculpt your eyebrows in 5 minutes. It's $6 for three of them that'll last you like two,
we are
3 months.
just,
Follow me for more beauty tips.
yeah,
Like
very
you
conditioned
can do
though,
those things.
is the
You can
point,
do
right?
those things. I think the point is that you don't have to. And when you do them, try to have the least toxic load that you possibly
Yeah.
can have on your body. So, like, we've talked about this. Like, I have to do some face stuff because if I don't, then it's terrible. But in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, microplastics, endocrine disruptors. I hate myself so fucking much.
I thought of
But
that the entire time
we've
they're
talked
putting
about it.
lotion on my legs today. I'm like, oh, what's in your
Yes.
lotion though?
Get your
Is this
plastics off me,
organic?
you
Yeah,
fuck.
I don't
Yeah,
like
is this
this.
coconut oil?
I
Has
can
this got
smell it from
beeswax in it?
here.
Is it made from Dandels candles?
I
Because if
don't
it's
want
not,
it.
I don't want it. But you know what I mean? Those all those things. And the only reason why we're saying that is now that we know better, I'm sure you feel the same
Trying to
way.
pass it
You
on.
think about putting but yes, think about when you're putting makeup on next. Is this a circumstance where I absolutely need it to take the risks of putting this stuff
Yeah,
on me? You know what? I'm just going to the grocery store, just going to the gym. Probably
don't need
not.
it.
Or let me just put some mascara on. That's good enough. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Whereas, like, I had to have full goddamn face and dressed right to the nines, smelling like everything smelling
yeah.
perfect and out the door. And I wondered why I was so fucked up and so anxious and so reactive to everything. And that's all I'm saying, guys, is like, if you're already insecure and all the stuff is not really helping, and then you're getting the side effects of it, like, is it really worth it? And then when you find out that these people kind of all want to make you feel like you're less than nothing, so you fill their pockets when they're already billionaires, no,
No,
not doing it. Sorry,
we're out.
not gonna do that. We're about bye. You get my full naked body. You don't get this whole like. Did you watch New Girl where she was like
Yes.
wearing that like get up and she's that's what I feel like okay, I've got it on now, and you're gonna take it off in 2 seconds. What was the point of
Yeah,
this? Like, I
not a
do
point.
not
Like I said, it's
understand.
not comfortable for what it's worth.
No,
No,
no. And like have fun, do your thing, guys, but just make sure it's with good intentions. It's not actually hurting you physically and mentally because you deserve better than that.
for
And
sure.
you deserve someone and yourself to think that you're the most beautiful at your fucking trollest foot self. You're Haley going to get her nails done. Look, you deserve someone that thinks you're beautiful like
Like
that.
fucking.
I think we'll end it that. I think that's a good way to end this episode. This was really fun, guys. I hope you
I
liked the
love it.
first one, diving into the sexual history. We're gonna get deeper. Let's talk about more Hollywood because that is full of it.
Yes.
One topic that was brought to me actually, and I said, "Don't worry, we're already covering it." Is trafficking. There is a lot of local trafficking, children, and sex trafficking, and we're gonna
It
put
ties
some jokes
huge
aside for
into
that
this.
one, and it ties to huge into this whole thing, and there's someone that I grew up with that is still missing. I'm not going to say that that's what happened to her, but a lot of people have been circling around that she may have
Same.
been, and it's very scary. And I think we need to talk about it. So we're going to take some time to talk about it, and then yeah, we have one more month after that, you
I
guys.
know, it's
Like
crazy.
we're talking sex, we're talking movements next the month after that, and we're taking a break for summer to come back
Bye.
refreshed. Season 6. Oh
Hopefully with
yeah,
a
bye there,
tan and
but
not just smoked out of my
hopefully
own
with the
freaking
tan.
house.
Yeah.
God.
But yeah, we're gonna keep talking about this sex stuff, guys. Follow us on all our social media platforms. If you have a topic you want to hear about, let
Let
us
us
know. If you want to
know.
be a beer with, let us know. Other than that, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Until next time, bye. Thank you guys so much for stopping by the show today. We truly hope that you had a good time. If you like this episode and you want to hear more, make sure to subscribe to our channels, like our episodes, and turn on those notification bells. You can find us on Rumble, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, and Google Podcast. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Until next time, guys.